In the world of Hollywood, there are some stories that go beyond the script, leaving an indelible mark on the industry. Sigourney Weaver's journey to fame is one of those stories. Everyone knows the iconic moment when something bursts from John Hurt's chest in Alien, the moment that shocked audiences and changed the course of cinema forever. Originally, Hollywood had their eye on Meryl Streep for the role of Ellen Ripley, but the studio felt a woman fighting monsters just wouldn't work. Enter Sigourney Weaver, who would go on to redefine the sci-fi genre and cement her place in movie history. But after 4 successful films, Sigourney made the shocking decision to walk away from the franchise that catapulted her to superstardom. Now, at 75, she is revealing the disturbing truth behind her departure: failed cloning attempts, FBI threats, and a dark secret that led her to refuse millions to return. Born Susan Alexandra Weaver on October 8, 1949, Sigourney came from a family already steeped in fame. Her father, Pat Weaver, was a television pioneer, credited with creating The Today Show and The Tonight Show, reshaping TV as we know it. Her mother, Elizabeth English, was an actress known for her role in The 39 Steps, 1935, though she left acting behind to raise her family. Sigourney's uncle, Doodles Weaver, was a comedian, and her godfather was Steve Allen, the first host of The Tonight Show. Despite this impressive lineage, Sigourney often felt like an outsider. Her parents' busy careers left her feeling ignored, and she once remarked that she was like a little girl in a big house with no one to talk to. Rather than riding on her family's coattails, Sigourney chose a different path. She went to Stanford University, where she studied English literature. Her college years were anything but ordinary. She lived in a treehouse with her boyfriend, played the flute, and dressed in elf costumes for fun. She dabbled in acting, performing in school plays like A Streetcar Named Desire. But she didn't see acting as a serious career. That all changed when she traveled to Israel after college to work on a farm. While there, she realized how much she missed the art of storytelling, which led her to apply to the prestigious Yale School of Drama. Yale was not kind to Sigourney. Surrounded by classmates like Meryl Streep, who effortlessly landed the best roles, Sigourney struggled. She was often relegated to playing older women, a stark contrast to her youthful early 20s, and even one professor told her, "You have no talent. You should leave." Instead of being discouraged, Sigourney became more determined to prove herself. Before all this, however, Sigourney made a pivotal decision at the age of 14. She changed her name. She discovered the name Sigourney in The Great Gatsby and felt it suited her much better. Already towering at 5 feet 11 inches by 6th grade, she had always felt out of place in her own skin, and Susan just didn't feel right for someone so tall. At school, she was teased and called the giant spider due to her height. But by adopting the name Sigourney, she felt stronger, more empowered. That unique name would become one of her greatest assets in Hollywood. Casting directors, intrigued by the name's masculinity, were often caught off guard when the tall, elegant Sigourney walked in, which helped her stand out in the competitive industry. Things began to change at Yale when she met Christopher Durang, a fellow student who also felt like an outsider in the world of theater. They began working together on unconventional, experimental plays. In 1976, Sigourney starred in Titanic, a production where she portrayed a woman who kept live animals inside her body. The play was bizarre, yet it showcased her ability to blend strange, avant-garde concepts with emotional depth. Together, Sigourney and Durang created the Lusitania Songspiel, a satirical play that mocked war and capitalism, further establishing Sigourney's reputation as an actress willing to take risks and push boundaries. Sigourney Weaver's rise to fame wasn't just a product of her talent, but of her courage to redefine herself, embrace the unconventional, and take on roles that others wouldn't dare. The moment she stepped into Ripley's shoes in Alien, she forever changed the narrative for women in action roles and opened the door for many other actresses to follow in her footsteps. But as she reflects on her career and the untold stories that led her to walk away from the Alien franchise, it's clear that Sigourney Weaver's journey was always more than just the roles she played. It was about forging her own path and reclaiming control over her destiny. Sigourney Weaver's early career was a blend of bizarre performances and avant-garde theater that defied conventional expectations, ultimately propelling her to the forefront of Hollywood. One particularly outrageous role saw her playing a sex worker smashing champagne bottles while singing about money, an act that critics deemed insane. But it caught the attention of the legendary Warren Beatty, who called it punk theater. Her Yale performance only pushed the envelope further. Instead of a serious monologue, she chose to perform a piece about a woman seducing a refrigerator. The professors were less than impressed, failing her for the eccentric performance. But Christopher Durang, her collaborator and fellow student, secretly handed the script to agents, which led to Sigourney's first off-Broadway role. Before Alien, Sigourney was deeply embedded in New York's strange theater scene. She and Durang continued to create unconventional plays, pushing the limits of what theater audiences could handle. In the Lusitania song spiel, they added a hedgehog puppet symbolizing capitalism, reimagined Romeo and Juliet with the lovers shouting Marxist slogans, and had Sigourney dress as the Titanic and sink while singing. Critics were baffled, but the play became a cult hit, catching the attention of renowned director Mike Nichols, who later cast her in her first Broadway role. Sigourney's first film appearance was a blink-and-you'll-miss-it moment in Annie Hall, 1977. She appeared for a mere 6 seconds, standing in a trench coat next to Woody Allen and Diane Keaton. She later joked, "I made $50 and spent it on a sandwich." At the time, it was an embarrassing moment for the budding actress, but it helped her in the long run. The casting director, Juliet Taylor, remembered Sigourney's face and later recommended her for Alien. The irony was that no one expected the woman who had just been standing in the background of Annie Hall to go on to battle aliens and monsters, which made her performance in Alien all the more surprising. Sigourney's breakthrough moment came with Alien, a role that forever changed the sci-fi genre. Initially, the script for Alien, 1976, didn't specify the character's gender, and early drafts used male pronouns. The concept of the lead being a woman was a groundbreaking decision, but director Ridley Scott and 20th Century Fox president Alan Ladd Jr. took the risk and made Ripley female. At just 29 years old, Sigourney was a relative unknown in Hollywood. She wasn't even the first choice for the role. Meryl Streep and Glenn Close were considered, but Sigourney got the part, and she turned Ripley into a character unlike any other. Ripley wasn't weak, nor was she waiting to be saved. She was smart, strong, and capable of surviving against all odds. Despite the bold move of casting a woman in the lead role, Hollywood wasn't initially on board with the decision. Sigourney was paid only $35,000 for her work on Alien, while co-star John Hurt made $250,000. The studio doubted that a female action hero could succeed, but Ridley Scott was determined to prove them wrong. He made Sigourney train with ex-Marines to ensure she looked strong and confident, capable of handling the machinery and facing the dangers of the film's intense action sequences. The gamble paid off when audiences were stunned by the film's unexpected twist. Ripley, played by Sigourney, became the last one standing after the male captain, played by Tom Skerritt, was killed off first. Ripley was no sidekick. She was the hero. Sigourney's performance as Ripley continued to break barriers. In 1987, she received an unexpected Oscar nomination for Aliens. At the time, the Academy rarely recognized sci-fi films, especially not action-packed ones with explosions, monsters, and aliens. The genre was often dismissed by the Hollywood elite, with awards typically going to emotional dramas or romantic films. But Sigourney's portrayal of Ellen Ripley was powerful and unique. Unlike the other nominees, who typically played women struggling with heartbreak or personal issues, Ripley was strong, smart, and fearless. She led a team of soldiers into battle, fought off terrifying creatures, and protected a young girl. Her performance combined strength and emotion in a way that was rare in action films, and the Academy couldn't ignore it. Sigourney Weaver's journey from an experimental theater actress to one of the most iconic figures in sci-fi is a testament to her incredible talent and determination. She changed the landscape of action films and proved that women could be heroes, not just victims. Her portrayal of Ripley in Alien and Aliens became a symbol of empowerment, and her impact on the genre is still felt today. Whether it was pushing boundaries in theater or revolutionizing the way women are portrayed in film, Sigourney Weaver's legacy is one of courage, innovation, and unforgettable performances. Despite Sigourney Weaver's groundbreaking performance in Aliens and her unexpected Oscar nomination, she didn't take home the coveted award. The Oscar went to Marlee Matlin for Children of a Lesser God, who made history as the first deaf actress to win. Many believed Weaver had been robbed, especially given the Academy's tendency to overlook the sci-fi genre. However, her nomination alone was a turning point. It helped open doors for future generations of women in action films. Years later, when Sandra Bullock won an Oscar for Gravity, many saw it as proof that Weaver had helped pave the way for women to excel in action roles. Then, in 1989, Weaver achieved something no actor had ever done before. She won 2 Golden Globes in one night, one for Gorillas in the Mist, where she portrayed the real-life scientist Diane Fossey, and another for Working Girl, where she played a ruthless boss. No actor had ever won 2 acting awards on the same night, and to this day, no one has repeated the feat. These 2 roles showcased the depth of Weaver's talent. In Gorillas in the Mist, she transformed herself into Fossey, a woman who dedicated her life to protecting gorillas. Weaver spent months studying Fossey's behavior, even living among real gorillas in Rwanda. She endured sickness and harsh conditions while filming and insisted on doing her own stunts in dangerous scenes. In Working Girl, she played a completely different character, a manipulative, arrogant executive who steals credit from her assistant. Weaver's performance was so convincing that it led people in Hollywood to joke that she must have been channeling every horrible boss they had ever met. Winning both Golden Globes in a single night solidified her reputation as one of the most versatile and talented actresses of her generation. But Weaver, ever humble, later joked, "I think the voters got confused and checked my name twice." Despite the immense success and recognition, Sigourney Weaver didn't want to fall into the trap of being typecast. After the success of Aliens, Hollywood offered her a slew of tough action roles, but she turned them down, wanting to avoid being pigeonholed. She even rejected iconic roles in Total Recall and The Silence of the Lambs, both of which became massive hits. Instead, she gravitated toward projects that pushed her boundaries. In The Ice Storm, she portrayed a quiet, unhappy housewife, a role that earned her a BAFTA nomination. She took on a dark, emotional role in Death and the Maiden, playing a woman confronting her former torturer. The role was so emotionally intense that the director referred to it as emotional surgery. And even when she wasn't physically on screen, Weaver made an impact. She lent her voice to the Pixar film Wall-E, proving that she could captivate audiences without even being seen. Despite her desire to move away from the genre, sci-fi always seemed to pull her back. Sigourney returned for Alien 3, but only on her terms. She demanded that Ripley's story be meaningful, not just another sequel filled with mindless action. She insisted that her character's death in the film serve a purpose, giving her the narrative weight she felt the character deserved. Unfortunately, her experience on Alien 3 was nothing short of a nightmare. The original idea for the film was drastically different from what eventually made it to the screen. In the original concept, the story took place on a wooden monastery planet where a group of monks lived in isolation. They believed Ripley was some kind of divine test, but when the xenomorph appeared, it changed everything. The chaos on Alien 3 marked the darker side of Hollywood, where even legendary stars like Sigourney Weaver had to fight for creative control and meaningful representation of their characters. Yet despite the challenges and obstacles, Sigourney's legacy in the sci-fi genre and her ability to take on vastly different roles made her one of the most respected and influential actresses in Hollywood history. The chaos that unfolded during the production of Alien 3 is a testament to how deeply Hollywood's control and studio interference can affect the creative process. Originally, the script was written by Vincent Ward in 1990, with a haunting, religiously themed setting, a monastery planet where the inhabitants believed the xenomorphs were a punishment for their sins. This eerie and slow-burning horror was filled with hand-carved wooden corridors, candle-lit rituals, and a faith-driven fear. However, just 3 weeks before filming was scheduled to start, the studio scrapped the entire concept. The sets were already under construction, but the script was thrown out, leaving the production in limbo. Test audiences had hated the idea of Alien 3 killing off the beloved little girl from Aliens off-screen, so in a panic, Fox decided to change the setting to a prison planet. This last-minute shift wasted millions of dollars and threw the entire production into disarray. Weaver later admitted that this was the moment when Hollywood stopped taking creative risks and instead began making movies solely to avoid financial loss. Fox, in their desperation, hired David Fincher to direct the film. At just 28 years old, Fincher had never helmed a feature film, only directing music videos. He was thrust into a situation where the studio had total control over every aspect of the film. Every morning, he fought with executives just to get the scenes shot the way he envisioned them. The script was a mishmash of ideas from several drafts, including one by cyberpunk writer William Gibson, which revolved around Cold War bioweapons, and another by Near Dark's Eric Red, which leaned more into horror. Ultimately, none of these ideas made it to the final cut, and the movie took on a prison break tone, abandoning the eerie spiritual themes of Ward's script altogether. Fincher's dark, unsettling style clashed with the studio's demands. He had wanted the opening credits to show Ripley's autopsy to give her grief real weight, but the studio vetoed it, calling it too depressing. Some of the crew mocked his vision, and one producer even scoffed, saying, "You could piss against a wall for 2 hours and call it Alien 3, and it'll still make $30 million. Fincher's frustration reached its peak. After Alien 3, he left Hollywood for a while, unwilling to let studios control his films. When he returned, it was with Seven, a film that would be made on his terms, without the heavy hand of the studio interfering in his vision. Sigourney Weaver, too, faced her own battles. Ripley's transformation in Alien 3 was drastic. She had a shaved head, wore plain prison clothes, and looked physically worn from radiation exposure. The makeup process was grueling. Prosthetic glue used on her scalp caused severe allergic reactions, leading to painful rashes. They had to switch to medical-grade glue, causing further delays. Even the decision to shave her head became a contentious issue. Fincher wanted it to be real, but the studio pushed for a wig, fearing that audiences wouldn't find Ripley attractive enough without her iconic hair. Weaver, however, refused. She felt that Ripley wasn't meant to be desirable. She was meant to survive. The studio's insistence on changing her appearance for commercial reasons angered her. In retaliation, Fox removed her co-producer credit from early trailers and even promoted the film with the tagline, "The Queen is back," a move Weaver found insulting and cheap. After the constant rewriting of the script, Weaver's frustration only grew. She had pushed for creative control after the success of Aliens and had gained enough power to demand script approval. When the studio killed off Newt and Hicks, she insisted that Ripley had to die too, or else it would feel like a pointless continuation. However, the endless changes drained her, and she later admitted that the entire experience made her feel exhausted and defeated. This ordeal also opened her eyes to the way Hollywood treated women. Male executives labeled her as hysterical for advocating for her creative input, and crew members resented taking orders from a woman. At times, she even considered quitting acting altogether. The making of Alien 3 marked a low point for Sigourney Weaver in her career, a painful reminder of the struggles women often face in the industry, particularly when attempting to assert their creative control. Despite these challenges, Weaver's resilience and determination to maintain the integrity of her character became a defining moment in her career, proving that she was more than just an action star. She was a force to be reckoned with. Despite the chaos surrounding Alien 3, Sigourney Weaver remained fiercely supportive of director David Fincher. She believed the film was ultimately buried under studio interference, but saw the value in what Fincher had tried to achieve. She respected his bold vision, even though the film's final version didn't reflect that vision. Fincher, on the other hand, wanted nothing to do with the movie after it was released. He called the experience a nightmare, and famously said, "No one hates it more than I do." When Fox released a longer cut of the film in 2003, restoring 30 minutes of deleted footage, Fincher refused to be involved, despite the opportunity to revisit his work. One of the most painful changes for Fincher was Ripley's death. Initially, Ripley was meant to sacrifice herself by jumping into molten lead, a poignant and heroic conclusion. However, at the last minute, Fox insisted on a change, making the xenomorph burst from her chest as she fell, an echo of Terminator 2's famous ending. Fincher thought it was stupid and unnecessary, a last-ditch attempt to copy a well-known successful moment. Sigourney, though she had mixed feelings about Alien 3, acknowledged that the movie was flawed but still saw it as a bold risk. She respected Fincher's decision to not play it safe. Killing off Ripley was a daring choice that made Ripley's grief feel more real, more human. Over time, Alien 3 developed a cult following, with some fans appreciating its deeper themes of corporate exploitation and bodily autonomy. Sigourney believed the film deserved more recognition than the hate it received at the time. In 1997, Sigourney Weaver returned to the Alien franchise in Alien Resurrection, this time embodying Ripley 8, a genetically altered clone with both human and xenomorph DNA. This combination endowed her with superhuman abilities, such as heightened strength and an unsettling connection to the aliens, exemplified when she chillingly declares, "I'm the monster's mother." Yet despite her powers, Ripley 8 grapples with profound loss. A harrowing scene reveals failed clones of herself, manifesting her struggle against her transformative identity. Critics dismissed the film as bizarre, but Weaver championed it, asserting that Ripley's evolution was an essential exploration of her character. One unplanned highlight occurred when Ripley, tasked with an off-the-cuff basketball shot, nailed it on her first attempt after weeks of practice with an NBA coach, shocking the crew. This spontaneous moment became a celebrated fluke in cinematic history. Though Alien Resurrection faced initial criticism, its peculiarities, including unsettling hybrids and humorous lines, gradually gained appreciation. Weaver embraced the film's chaos, showcasing her dedication to pushing boundaries in both her character and the genre. Through the ups and downs of her role, Weaver's commitment to evolving Ripley solidified her position as a landmark figure in science fiction cinema, continually redefining the expectations of such roles. In Alien Resurrection, Sigourney Weaver faced various challenges while delivering notable moments, including a suspenseful underwater chase that showcased the xenomorphs hunting the crew. Despite spine-chilling scenes, not all aspects resonated well, as critics often highlighted the infamous CGI moment where a hybrid alien is expelled into space as one of the film's low points. Weaver acknowledged the film's flaws but expressed no regrets about her involvement, admitting it diverged from the original but still contributed to the franchise. Following Alien Resurrection, Weaver rejected the idea of using Ripley's story for commercial gain, notably refusing to participate in Alien vs. Predator, 2004, which she deemed ridiculous, likening it to a clash between Jaws and Godzilla. She had previously pushed for Ripley's death in Alien 3 to preserve her character's integrity, and the subsequent franchise entries frustrated her as they undermined Ripley's sacrifice. Over the years, Weaver aimed to maintain Ripley's legacy as a genuine sci-fi hero. In 2014, she voiced Ripley in the game Alien Isolation, which focused on survival rather than action, and she found it meaningful. At 61, she also embraced a significant role in Avatar: The Way of Water as Kiri, a teenage Na'vi, bringing authenticity through her performance without digital enhancements. Her creativity enriched the character, especially in scenes that reflected her connection to nature. The idea of a 61-year-old Sigourney Weaver playing a teenager raised eyebrows, yet she proved her critics wrong. While visual effects helped enhance her youthful appearance, her portrayal of Kiri was rooted in her authentic physicality and acting, demonstrating her capability to embody a teenager's spirit. Weaver consistently reinvented herself, showcasing her versatile range across varied roles. In The Defenders, she took on the unexpected role of Alexandra Reed, a chilling villain with a disturbing backstory. Reed, who survived for 500 years by stealing organs, was portrayed by Weaver with unmatched depth and desperation, defying expectations once again in her later career. Throughout her journey, Weaver has pushed the limits of her craft, whether through her iconic role as Ripley or as complex, unexpected characters. Her performance as Alexandra Reed exemplified a unique villain, eschewing overt evil for a more intelligent and subtle menace. A notable chilling scene involved her poisoning someone's tea, echoing Shakespearean themes of calculated malice. Although Marvel initially wanted her character to survive longer, Weaver remained steadfast in her vision. Subsequent revelations showed that Kevin Feige regretted not including her in Eternals, highlighting her undeniable impact on the industry and her desire to leave a lasting legacy. In 2013, Sigourney Weaver made a vibrant return to Broadway in Vanya and Sonia and Masha and Spike, portraying a chaotic, washed-up actress. Her performance was marked by incidents, such as accidentally breaking David Hyde Pierce's rib and getting stuck in a wig net. The audience adored her wild energy, and her off-script rants about 1980s soap operas were so well received that the playwright incorporated them into the play. Weaver's commitment to authenticity led her to demand real vodka on set, nearly derailing the budget, and she even performed a matinee while battling COVID-19, channeling Masha's madness. In Galaxy Quest, Weaver humorously critiqued her sci-fi legacy as Gwen DeMarco. She improvised memorable lines and poked fun at the impracticality of sci-fi costumes, while the screenwriter provided her insults through an earpiece to emulate Ripley's intensity. Her cameo in Ghostbusters: Afterlife, though brief, hinted at her character Dana Barrett's significant role in funding the Ghostbusters' return. Weaver, rejecting aging makeup, believed Dana had earned her wrinkles. On a personal note, her 40-year marriage to writer Jim Simpson exemplifies stability in Hollywood, starting from a chance meeting in 1983. She describes their union as a leap of faith. In 1990, Sigourney Weaver welcomed her daughter Charlotte, or Char, a non-binary professor at Columbia University focused on AI and digital storytelling. Weaver has candidly shared the challenges of balancing motherhood with her career, particularly while filming Avatar, admitting it nearly overwhelmed her as Char was applying to colleges. Despite her Hollywood success, Weaver prefers a quieter life in New York, enjoying family time and hiking. Her Hollywood journey has been tough. At 6 feet tall, she faced early rejections but persevered, valuing authenticity over conventional beauty. Weaver's legacy comprises bold choices and resilience, defining her roles from iconic sci-fi figures to Broadway stars, while advocating for her creative freedom. Char's contrasting indifference to her mother's fame, such as casually dismissing Alien, reflects the grounded upbringing Weaver instilled. Beyond cinema, Weaver is a committed activist, notably speaking against heart disease as an advocate for the American Heart Association and supporting abortion rights in Call Jane, 2022. Additionally, she champions gorilla conservation through the Dian Fossey Gorilla Fund, even standing by climate activists at her play The Tempest in 2025 despite backlash. Weaver's commitment to activism is integral to her identity, highlighting her compassionate and outspoken nature. Sigourney Weaver has significantly impacted Hollywood, championing women's representation and equality throughout her career. Her iconic portrayal of Ripley in Alien shattered stereotypes, demonstrating that women could headline blockbuster action films. While advocating for pay equality, she initially earned $330,000 for Alien, a sum less reflective of her stardom. However, her salary increased for Avatar, illustrating her progress and that of women in the industry. Viola Davis highlighted the stark pay disparity between white and black actresses, emphasizing ongoing inequalities. Beyond her career, Weaver has supported various causes, notably in projects like Prayers for Bobby, which addresses LGBTQ+ issues, and mentoring younger actresses like Elizabeth Banks in Call Jane. She has also served as a UN Goodwill Ambassador, advocating for environmental issues such as climate change and plastic pollution, and tackling addiction stigma and refugee rights. During the COVID-19 pandemic, she turned her New York apartment into a meeting space for activists, including Greta Thunberg, and risked arrest while protesting the Keystone XL pipeline. For Weaver, activism is a fundamental aspect of her identity. Her dedication to environmental sustainability, gender equality, and social justice reflects her belief in the power of individual action to drive meaningful change in the world.